He's so cute. He's so cute. He's so cute.
Like in an airplane, or have you ever been flying? I know Dr. Hart likes flying. I don't know who else likes flying, but I do. For my job, I used to get to fly on airplanes, but I also got to fly on helicopters. And so I think I have some pictures for you guys to see. That was me in my flight suit in front of the helicopter. And this was flying up when I was going to get a patient. And then this was the very first time I got to be in a helicopter. And I got to sit in the cockpit there and fly over to go get the patient. And then they made me go be with the patient in the back of the helicopter. But a little kind of interesting thing about helicopters is the pilots fly on the other side than what we drive in. So like that picture looks like I'm in the driver's seat, but I'm actually not. I'm in like the passenger seat with all those controls and all of those joysticks and everything in front of me. And the pilot would like tell me like what all the switches did and everything. And I was super excited to fly, if you can't tell. I loved it. So I'm going to tell you a story about the second time I ever was on a helicopter. So we had to fly all the way down to San Diego and pick up a patient, and everything went well, everything was fine, and we got the patient, loaded up the baby, and started coming back towards Loma Linda. And when we got everybody all secured and all the checks done, I could hear the pilot, because in our headsets or our helmets, we can always hear the conversations between the pilots and the control towers and everybody to make sure that everybody was safe, right? So we were just about ready to fly. We actually had just taken off, and we were, you know, when airplanes, when they like go on the runway and they go really, really fast and get enough speed and then they go up. In helicopters, you don't have to do that because you have the propellers that you just kind of lift. And it's kind of a different feeling for flying. And I remember we had just lifted up, and then I heard, this is Mercier, and we're flying at 3,000 feet, and we're headed to Roland. I think pilots go to school to learn how to talk on the radios. So we fly, and he said one more thing. He says, we have 5 souls on board. And then the control tower comes, and they're like, all right, we hear you, Mercier. You're clear to fly. And so we're flying at 3,000 feet. We're coming back, and coming from San Diego, you fly over this Air Force Base, March Air Force Base, and they have a lot of military pilots, and they have a lot of planes and things, you know, to help keep our country safe and stuff. But pretty soon the control tower comes on, and they're like, Mercier, there is air traffic ahead 1 mile from your east, flying at 3,000 feet. And so our pilot says, well, do we have permission to drop altitude? And guess what the control tower said? They said nothing. It was silent. And then pretty soon, you know how they always say, do we have permission to drop altitude? And there was nothing. And then all of a sudden he goes, do we have permission to drop altitude? Super nice. And there was still nothing. And I look out my window and look at what I saw. So I'm like, I don't know how big this plane is because I think everything will look big outside my window flying right at me. And so to show you kind of how big it was, I'll show you this next picture. This is me in front of my helicopter. And do you see the man standing in front of that airplane at the very top, at the tip of the nose of the airplane? He looks super tiny, and I look really big. And, you know, that's not just like a big airplane. That's a C-17, and that's like the biggest airplanes. That's the airplanes that they take tanks, like the military tanks. They'll fly those overseas. Did you know that my helicopter can even fit inside the belly of that airplane? So, what do you think that I felt? sitting there, seeing the plane coming at me. Scared? You'd think I would be scared, right? And my teammates, they sat behind me, and they like grabbed me, and they were like freaking out, and I felt nothing at all. I just looked at them, and I gave them a thumbs up, and I'm like, oh, this is great, I'm flying, I'm in the sky, like, they're gonna know how to take care of things. Well, pretty soon, the airplane got so close to us, and we dropped like so fast. I got the biggest tummy tickler I've ever had in my whole life. And we made a sharp turn, and so like the airplane was coming this way, we were coming this way, and our helicopter turned this way and dropped, and this airplane went up and turned the other direction. And I ducked because I thought I was going to hit my head. So I ducked down, and I watched the belly of the airplane come up over our propellers and saw like the whole length of it. And it was crazy. It was so crazy that I didn't feel scared at all. Then pretty soon, about 2 minutes later, the control tower comes on, and he said, Mercier, the sky's all clear, it's all yours, all the way to Loma Linda. Now, I don't know why God made me not scared. Maybe it was because I know in Exodus 14:13, it says, don't be afraid, just sit still and watch God rescue you.
Amen.
And I'm pretty sure that's what happened, that I wasn't scared. But I just think of that time as such an interesting, I've had so many lessons that have come from that experience, and it was, just so great to be able to experience God protecting me and keeping me safe and giving me the people in my life to keep me safe. The two pilots that were they were trained for emergency situations, but I doubt any of them had ever had to do those maneuvers or had to drop altitude or increase their altitude or do those sharp turns before, but they listened to their training and they knew what to do when crisis hit, and now I'm alive to tell you about it. So thank you